guys? This is Bruce Matson, your host of the show, Metro Scout Fantasy Football, the show that looks at all things fantasy from redraft to dynasty, from DFS all the way to Davy. If that's something you're into, if you're into all those formats or you want to learn about some of them, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, tell your homies, because I'm here to help you out. As you've seen from the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about my must-draft wide receivers, my must-have guys at the position for redraft this year. We're early, we're in May, but it's good to get a jump on things, get the wheels turning so we're ready. We're going to be using average draft position from Underdog Fantasy, a money league site that has ADP for right now, considering the people drafting there are playing with their cold hard cash, so their draft picks that are making are pretty relevant to what we're looking at for redraft. It's a best ball format, but if you're interested in playing on Underdog Fantasy, or if you want to take a look, check the link in my description. If you want to make a deposit, go through the site, enter Metric Scout at checkout, and you'll get $25 added to your deposit. It's a good deal. It's a good site. They have all kinds of different draft formats from NFL, NBA, and whatever. I suggest you at least check it out. And for my must-have wide receivers, this isn't a ranking. This isn't like who I think's the best. This isn't deep, detailed analysis. This is me after going through a bunch of drafts. These are guys that I'm drafting on the regular. And if I'm doing that, I want to share that with you so you can get my thoughts and experiences. One of the guys that I'm drafting a lot is Stefan Diggs. He has an ADP of 13.7. He's wide receiver 2 on Underdog. Of course, everybody wants him. And it's easy to see. He's in a price point where the running backs are starting to tear off a little bit. Tyreek Hill is being drafted in the land of some of the top running backs in the league, so it's hard to want to draft him. Devante Adams may not have Aaron Rodgers anymore. And we like A.J. Brown, but a lot of people are scared of the low-volume passing offense. Last year, Stefan Diggs had a 29% market share of the passing offense in Buffalo. High. That's elite level ownership rate. Over 1,000 air yards with 1,713 and a 41% share of the team's air yards. So that is ridiculously high. He averaged 2.51 yards per route run, so he's highly efficient. 3.17 yards after the catch per reception. And also had 117.5 QB rating when targeted. He posted 5 wide receiver 1 weeks, 6 wide receiver 2 weeks, and only 4 weeks where he was a wide receiver 3 or worse. And he did not have a game where he did not produce double-digit PPR fantasy points. It means he's a very safe guy to invest in. Stefan Diggs is super safe, and there's no changes in the offense, really. Josh Allen is going to be looking his way still. He's the guy there. He's going to get a high target share. As long as they're both healthy, Stefan Diggs is going to rock out. Last year, he led the league in targets, receptions, receiving yards, second in air yards, third in weighted opportunity rating among wide receivers, third in PPR points, third in PPR points per game, and third in expected points per game. That is about as good as you can get for a wide receiver in fantasy. And the thing about wide receivers is we're in a wide receiver bubble now where we have like 1 million wide receiver 2s, 1 million wide receivers that can produce on every week. So when you're getting consistency at the top end, when you're paying high-end draft capital, a high second-round pick on a wide receiver, you want consistency. You want a guy that can put up stable wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 numbers. You're going to get that from Stefan Diggs. He is going to be a value. His lows are still decent, where when he does not perform, it's still double-digit fantasy points. The only thing that can take him off this course is an injury, and that is something we do not project on players unless they have an extensive injury history, and Stefan Diggs does not. So from that point, from what we've seen here from all the numbers, he's a very safe wide receiver to go get in drafts. I like him a lot. Of course, everybody does, but he's a must-have guy for me in fantasy this year. My second player who's a must-have guy is Amari Cooper. He has an average draft position of 33.6. He is wide receiver 12 off the board, so he's a mid-third rounder. So if you think about it this way, if you're going robust RB and you drafted 2 running backs running back starting to get a little slim, you may be looking at Amari Cooper as your wide receiver 1. That sounds a little scary because there is a little bit of skepticism among a lot of fantasy gamers when it comes to Amari Cooper. But last year he had a 21% target share, 1,137 air yards, and he had a 24% share of the air yards on the team. That was different when Dak was in the fold for the first 5 games. Target share bumped up to 24% and had 28% share of the air yards. CeeDee Lamb was there, Gallup was there, and his production was a little better. Last year, he had 3 wide receiver 1 weeks, 5 wide receiver 2 weeks, and 8 weeks where it was wide receiver 3 or worst. When Dak was there, he had nothing but wide receiver 2 weeks or better. He had 4 wide receiver 2 weeks and 1 wide receiver 1 week, nothing less. So he was consistently productive. That was just a good sign for Amari Cooper that he is going to be able to be consistent with Dak. Another thing, and I mentioned this in my must-have video or must-draft video for running backs a few days ago, is Dallas's offense when Dak was at quarterback and how they were trying to operate the game plan. Dallas led the league in 20.7 seconds between offensive snaps. They also led the league in 74 plays per game. That volume churns out productivity in offense. That volume pushes the skill players to produce more fantasy points with what they're doing on the field. They were also second in the league with a 66% pass rate per game. It's really high, good for the passing offense, good for Amari Cooper. The one thing, like Diggs, the only thing that's in his way is maybe injuries. Or CeeDee Lamb stepping up, stealing more target share, Michael Gallup being able to reel in more balls downfield. But after everything you've taken count in, Amari Cooper is the target hog of this offense, is the man Dak is looking for first when he's dropping back. At his price point as wide receiver 12, ADP of 33.6, that is very stable for him, and that's a good price tag considering you got a piece in a high volume passing offense. And if I draft him, I want to stack him with Dak as much as possible, get that 1-2 punch going on. And I'm not afraid to go Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, even though that sounds counterintuitive, but I like Cooper in 2021 fantasy football. The last player, the third player on this list. I went a little bit lower in ADP because if I stayed up around the high range, then I'm just giving you guys that are just obvious hits. And this guy, he's falling in double-digit rounds. He's wide receiver 51 in Underdog Fantasy. He's falling a bit, and he just got some opportunity this year that could allow him to be productive. And that is Corey Davis, formerly from the Tennessee Titans. He's now with the New York Jets. He's got a new quarterback with Wilson, and he's on a depth chart that does not have much competition. He's got Denzel Mims, who could take a step forward this year. Jameson Crowder in the slot. We'll see if he'll be on the team week 1 because of that contract situation, but they also have Elijah Moore, who they drafted in the 2nd round this year. Davis is wide receiver 1 in average draft position. He's beaten that ADP twice in his career, and he's in an offense where he can be the lead dog. Last year, he commanded 23% target share, over 1,000 air yards, and a 31% share of the air yards while sharing the field with A.J. Brown. Of course, that was a low-volume passing offense. That did not equate to extravagant numbers. Just 3 wide receiver 1 weeks, 2 wide receiver 2 weeks. He was viable in 5 weeks of the entire fantasy season. But still, this is a new opportunity, new place, maybe new results. Quarterback that likes to chuck it downfield. An offensive coordinator with Mike LaFleur, who's been in the Shanahan offense from his days in San Francisco and his days in Atlanta. That's a pass-heavy approach. At least have been historically, if you take away a couple years where they haven't had the right talent quarterback while in San Francisco. But all in all, this looks like it could be a prime opportunity to catch a player at a good discount later in drafts in double-digit rounds when you're looking for a wide receiver for your flex or off the bench who could beat their average draft position. Davis is in a spot to do so because he's going to command a large portion of the targets. He's going to command air yards. He's going to be targeted deep downfield. He's the veteran of this group. He's the veteran wide receiver 1 in this group. If he can stay healthy, if he can build a rapport with Zach Wilson, then this could be all systems go. And if he fails, if he falls on his face, if this does not work out, you're not out anything. Usually players in the double-digit rounds, you're not accounting much for them. They're risky propositions to begin with. Your foolproof guys, your bulletproof assets are in rounds 1 through 5. So a guy with a 159, pretty much a 160 average draft position, who is more likely going to be the wide receiver 1 in their own offense, is a deal right now, and he'll be a deal in redraft if he continues at this price point. That's why I'm drafting Corey Davis. Not because I think he's going to be a wide receiver 1. Not because I think he's going to be even a wide receiver 2. I think he's a deal at his current price point that you can use as a spot starter, or he could transition into a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2, maybe even low-end wide receiver 1 if things go his way. But the entry cost is so cheap, it's worth the gamble. It's worth seeing what happens with him because the upside's there. He's athletic. He's got the size. He's got the situation where he can be the guy. The running backs are not super sexy there. It's going to be hard to imagine them leaning on the run game. They could slow down the offense due to them building the defense up, due to them having a rookie quarterback. But all in all, he is in a situation where he can be the prime target hog in New York. Those are my must-draft wide receivers. Comment below. Let me know who's your must-draft guys, who you're looking to get in redraft this year. Thank you for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Ring the bell, tell your homies, and I'll catch you next time.